We were all raised with the same lesson. Play fair, work hard, be kind, and good things will follow. The world, we were told, is a meritocracy. Those who follow the rules will rise. Justice will prevail. It reassures us. It lulls us. And then, it blinds us. But then, reality intrudes, and the fairy tale begins to rot. Look around your office. The most competent employee isn't always the one who gets promoted. It's the one who knows how to be seen, who flatters the right people, who makes moves quietly, behind closed doors. In small-town politics, it's not the most honest candidate who wins. It's the one who shakes the right hands, who knows how to promise everything while saying nothing. Even in friendships, you'll find it. Those who speak loudest often drown out those with the most substance. The hard truth? Fairness isn't the rule. It's the bedtime story we were fed to stay asleep. But in reality, power rewards strategy, not sincerity. Fairness is the cover story. Power was always the plot. So the question is, will you keep playing by the rules you were taught? Or are you ready to see how the game really works? Because once you do, you'll never look at success the same way again. Part 1. Nietzsche's will to power, the core of reality. Friedrich Nietzsche shattered one of the most comforting illusions of modern life, that the world is driven by fairness, by justice, by morality. To him, life, at every level, is fueled by something far more primal, the will to power. This isn't about aggression for its own sake. It's the core impulse in all things alive, the drive to grow, to assert, to shape the world rather than be shaped by it. The lion defends its territory. The entrepreneur disrupts a stagnant industry. The empire expands without asking permission. Power isn't corruption. It's biology, dressed in ambition, and history proves it. Rome didn't rise to glory through diplomacy. It conquered, enslaved, absorbed. The United States became a superpower through wars, expansionism, and control of global markets, not idealism. Even now, the titans of modern business, Amazon, Apple, Google, didn't play fair. They scaled fast, crushed competitors, exploited legal gray zones, and rewrote the rules. To the average person, it looks like greed. To Nietzsche, it's the will to power, unmasked. But here's the twist. While the powerful exercise this drive openly, the rest of us are taught to repress it. From the moment you were born, society gave you a script. Be nice. Be humble. Be obedient. Wait your turn. And most importantly, don't want too much. Nietzsche saw this as a strategic trap. He called it a battle between two types of morality. Slave morality is the code of the weak, those who lack power and instead glorify traits that make people easier to control. Humility, submission, sacrifice. It teaches you to feel guilty for your ambition, to fear your own strength. Master morality, in contrast, belongs to those who create, dominate, and lead. They define good, not by what society approves of, but by what expands their power and potential. The uncomfortable truth? Most of us have been programmed with slave morality. In school, you're praised for being quiet and following instructions. At home, love is conditional on obedience. In religion, you're promised reward in the next life, if you suffer in this one. The result? You don't lose your will. You're taught to fear it. You start to think wanting more is wrong. That virtue requires waiting, and ambition must kneel before permission. That being silent, agreeable, and small makes you a good person. But look around. In the office, who climbs the ladder? Not the hardest worker, but the one who plays the politics, speaks confidently, makes strategic moves. In the startup world, who survives? Not always the most ethical, but the most adaptable, the most bold, the most relentless. And in everyday life, who shapes outcomes? The ones who assert, not the ones who wait. Here's the deeper danger Nietzsche warned us about. Morality becomes a control system when it's no longer a guide for your behavior, but a cage for your potential. You begin to self-censor, self-limit, and self-sacrifice. Not because it's right, but because you've been trained to believe that ambition equals arrogance, assertiveness equals danger, and power is reserved for others, not you. But Nietzsche's truth cuts through that lie. Power doesn't come to those who deserve. It comes to those who take. In the next part, we'll explore how those who rise break this illusion, and why waiting for recognition is the fastest way to be forgotten. Part 2. The Rise of the Ruthless. How power is taken. Nietzsche didn't romanticize power. He stripped it down to its core truth. Power is never given. It is taken. And history confirms this, again and again. Julius Caesar didn't politely request authority from the Roman Senate. When they tried to restrain him, he crossed the Rubicon, defied the Republic, and declared himself dictator. He didn't wait. He moved. Napoleon Bonaparte wasn't born into royalty, but his ambition refused to kneel. He seized the moment, staged a coup, and crowned himself emperor, rewriting Europe in his image. Steve Jobs didn't wait for the tech world to approve of his ideas. He bulldozed through convention, imposed his vision, and turned Apple into a global empire. He didn't follow the system. He bent it to his will. But for every one of these figures, there are millions who played by the rules and got left behind. They were diligent. They were loyal. They followed the script perfectly, until they realized the script was never written for them. Why? Because they misunderstood the nature of the game. But this isn't just history. It's happening at your desk. In your office, you've seen it. The employee who shows up early, leaves late, never complains, yet stays stuck in the same role for years. Meanwhile, a less talented colleague reads the room, builds alliances, and climbs. And they rise. Not because they deserve it, but because they understand. Success is not awarded on merit. It's claimed through power dynamics. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people cling to morality not because it works, but because it's all they've ever known. From childhood, they've been conditioned to believe, be good, and good things will come. Be humble, and someone will notice. Wait your turn, and you'll be rewarded. But the world doesn't operate like that. That belief system, slave morality, as Nietzsche called it, isn't just naive. It's a system designed to keep the majority docile. And when you believe deeply in that system, you become emotionally invested in the illusion of fairness. You internalize the idea that not playing the game makes you noble, even as the game crushes you. That's why so many hardworking people resent those who rise fast. They say, he's manipulative, she's ruthless, that's not fair. And maybe it isn't. But fairness was never the rule. It was the story told to keep you compliant. Power follows a brutal equation. It goes to those who move. Those who wait, lose. And this applies everywhere. In startups, one founder spends years perfecting their product. Another launches fast, fails fast, and pivots until they dominate the market. Guess who survives? In politics, the best ideas don't win. The most strategic campaigns do. In life, the bold shape outcomes. The passive endure them. And here's the most painful part. There are no exceptions. No one is too good to be crushed by the rules of power. Not you, not me, not anyone. So ask yourself honestly, are you waiting for someone to hand you power? Or are you ready to see the game for what it is? and learn how to play. Because in the game of power, only one thing is guaranteed. If you don't claim your position, someone else will take it. In the next part, we'll explore the dark flip side, what happens when those who rise forget to check their own ambition, and how the path to power can just as easily become the path to self-destruction. Part 3. The Trap of Power. Why the Mighty Fall. Power builds, and then, if unchecked, it breaks. Nietzsche saw this clearly. Power is not only seductive, it's blinding. At first, it feels like clarity. You rise through strength, strategy, brilliance. But slowly, success creates an illusion. I always make the right move. The rules don't apply to me. That illusion is the beginning of collapse. Look at Julius Caesar. He broke every limit, conquered rivals, and positioned himself as Rome's ultimate authority. But then, he overreached. He ignored signs of discontent, believed his control was permanent. And one day, the very hands that once applauded him stabbed him. Brutus. The Senate. Power turned to betrayal. Napoleon followed the same arc, from revolution's champion to emperor of Europe. But when he marched into Russia, despite every warning, he believed no winter could stop him. That arrogance cost him an empire. This is the cycle of power. Rise. Dominate. Overestimate. Fall. And it's not just ancient history. Jeff Skilling, CEO of Enron, believed he'd built an empire of genius. But behind the scenes? Lies. Market manipulation. He stopped listening, kept pushing. And when the fraud collapsed, he lost everything, including his freedom. Elizabeth Holmes, founder of Theranos, promised a medical revolution. When her tech failed, she didn't admit the flaw. She doubled down on illusion. In the end, lawsuits, disgrace, prison. Why does power do this? Because power isolates. The more you rise, the fewer people push back. Criticism vanishes, echo chambers grow, and slowly, you lose grip on reality. Worse still, power feeds the ego. It turns risk into entitlement, mistakes into bold moves, warnings into jealousy. Even Elon Musk faced this. In 2018, Tesla was in chaos. Musk tweeted impulsively, fought regulators, made promises that nearly broke the company. It took intervention, structure, outside voices to pull Tesla back from collapse. The truth: unchecked power doesn't explode. It rots from within, like a throne built on quicksand. And it metastasizes, disguised as loyalty, momentum, and admiration. Nietzsche didn't just admire the will to power. He warned, without self-mastery, the will becomes a weapon turned inward. The great fall not because they're weak, but because they stop reflecting. They believe they've won the game, when in fact, they've only entered its most dangerous level. So the real challenge is not how high you rise, it's how deeply you remain rooted. In the next part, we'll explore that rare quality, the discipline to hold power without letting it consume you. Because the strongest aren't those who shout the loudest, but those who stay sharp, even at the top. Part 4. Balancing Ruthlessness, the art of sustainable power. Nietzsche never said, "Be ruthless at all costs." He said, "Wield power, but master yourself first. Because raw power may bring you to the top, but only discipline, restraint, and timing can keep you there." We've seen how the bold rise through force, strategy, and sheer will. But the same intensity that builds empires can also destroy them if left unchecked. So what separates those who burn out from those who endure? 2 words: inner control. Step 1. Recognize the illusion of invincibility. It starts small. People stop challenging you. You get praised more than questioned. You start thinking, maybe I am always right. That's the trap. The invincibility mindset. Nietzsche warned of this. The moment you believe you're above mistake is the moment you become vulnerable. Ask yourself regularly, am I surrounded by people who tell me the truth, or only what I want to hear? Do I feel the urge to dominate every room I enter? Do I mistake silence from others as respect when it might be fear? Self-auditing is not weakness, it's survival. Step 2. Learn strategic silence. In a noisy world, silence becomes a weapon of focus. When others rush to speak, defend, react, you wait. That discomfort, that pause, it forces them to reveal more than they intended. Meanwhile, you watch. You map the terrain. Nietzsche respected this deeply. The powerful don't speak to be heard. They speak when it counts. Try this. Let the silence do what your reaction never could. Expose their motive. In silence, they reveal their edge. In patience, you sharpen yours. And most of the time, they overplay their hand. In conflict, don't explain immediately. Hold the space. Let them reveal what matters most. Step 3. Observe before you act. Like a chess master, you don't move to look busy, you move to win. Before making any big decision, ask, is this move strategic or emotional? Am I acting from ego or long-term positioning? This applies in business, relationships, leadership, everywhere. The sustainable power player doesn't chase every opportunity. They strike at the right moment, when impact is highest and risk is lowest. Nietzsche's real message wasn't about domination. It was about becoming a sovereign force, someone who bends the world without breaking themselves. And that takes more than willpower. It takes restraint, awareness, clarity. So if you've already started to rise, is your goal victory or sovereignty? Because power without control is a fire. But power with discipline? That's strategy. That's mastery. In the final part, we'll show you what happens when this mastery is fully embodied, when you stop chasing the game and start becoming the one who sets the rules. Your choice. Play blind or play smart. Now you've seen it all. The illusion of fairness, the raw reality of power, the rise of the bold, and the downfall of the blind. So the question is no longer, is the game fair? The question is, are you ready to play it on your terms? Because here's what Nietzsche made crystal clear. Power is not asked for, it is taken. You can keep waiting, hoping your effort will be noticed, hoping that if you're good enough, fair enough, patient enough, someone will reward you. But you already know how that story ends. Or dash. You can start paying attention to the real rules. When to be silent, when to strike, when to observe, and when to step into the arena fully, without apology. This is not about becoming someone you hate. It's about becoming someone who sees clearly. Someone who's done being a pawn. Because clarity isn't just power, it's the beginning of freedom. So now, pause, reflect, look at your own life and ask, where am I still waiting for permission? Where am I playing small because I fear being seen as too much? What would change if I chose to take power instead of hoping for it? If this message spoke to you, Write in the comments. I refuse to play blind. Let the world know. You've opened your eyes. And in the next video, we'll take this even further, into the dark strategies of modern manipulation and how to stay untouchable. See you there.